With the release of Dunkirk this week, I thought I would do a top 5 on one of the main actors in the movie. If you haven't guessed already, it is Mr. Tom Hardy. So, without further ado, here is my top 5 movies from Tom Hardy. Let's start as we mean to go on with number 5. Okay, so it's not really a Tom Hardy movie, but he's one of the main characters in it, so this is my number 5. The Revenant is, of course, as we know, a beautifully shot film. It is harsh. It was apparently it was like hell to make. But Tom Hardy's character of John Fitzgerald screamed out at me. I loved his performance in this movie. He was a man who was looking out for himself. He just wanted to sell skins, animal skins. He wanted to just get out of that harsh climate, get as much money as he could, even kills people to get where he wants to go, and really just does everything that is against human code to get what he wants, even killing his friend Glass's son, even leaving him for dead in a hole. And when you're in a movie like this with one of the greatest men in cinematic history, of course Leonardo DiCaprio, I will do a video on him later on my channel, I can swear to God, he's also one of my favourite actors of all time. But when you're in a film with a man of such prowess, and in some scenes even overtake his acting ability, you can tell that Tom Hardy was on his A game in this movie, that, as I said earlier, was hell to film, and he just owns it, and it was this dank, horrible man, and I loved every second of him. If you haven't seen The Revenant, do check it out, because his performance in it is just impeccable. But not the best on my list, as you will now see with number 4. This film is a total underrated thing, I think, and a completely different movie in Hollywood, and I'm not surprised that it didn't do that well, but for me, Locke is all about Tom Hardy's acting ability. It's just him in a car from Wales to London. That is it. When I even say that kind of synopsis to someone, it would sound kind of boring, but the story that is in it, when I first watched it, I thought, yeah, well, I'll watch it because Tom Hardy's in it, but it doesn't sound all that captivating. But it's about him, after being at an office party for his construction company that he works for, he got a woman pregnant, and because of the man's harsh moral code, he decides to go to London to be with the woman to give birth. But he has a wife and children at home. But on the way to London, he gets phone calls from them. He rings them to tell them that he can't come home. He breaks up with his wife on the phone. His work colleagues, who are getting drunk at work because of stress, are annoying him. He gets fired on the way to... Everything in this film is everyday life, you know? He's got a woman pregnant. Okay, so he's going to go there. He's going to try and figure things out. He's going to have to tell his wife, because he's a man of strict moral code. Even though it shouldn't be captivating, it so is. All it is a car journey, but the man's acting, and the amount you care for the troubles that Ivan Locke is going through in this movie, just through driving these few hundred miles, is fantastic. It is all about one man in a car. There's no other way to describe it. If you haven't seen this movie, it is one of Hardy's best, in my opinion, because there's so little to do in it, yet he makes this quite hard thing to kind of spit out at you, you know, to just describe it to someone would be boring, but to see the man act it is truly, just shows how amazing he can be by just doing nothing. I love that. And that is why that is number 4 on my list. Please check out Locke if you haven't. It is a total underrated movie. Not just because of Tom Hardy, but for the film itself. Incredible. Incredible performance, incredible film. Number 4. So, let's move on to number 3. And that is... Of course, if you've watched my channel before, you know I love my comic book movies. I'm a huge Marvel guy. I like a few DC films. They've clearly done some bad things, as I've said in the past before, so I won't go into those ones. But we all know what I mean. You was in the darkness as your ally. I was born in it. There was a time where comic book movies were bad. Chris Nolan then came along, which is also quite a good segue into the Dunkirk thing, as we of course know Dunkirk has been directed by him. You of course had the brilliant Dark Knight in '08. And then you think, with the sad passing of Heath Ledger, how will they make another villain as captivating, as brutal and as brilliant as that? And I'd have to say that Tom Hardy pulled it off with, of course, Bane. Now in these three movies there is Batman is being, hurt in his mind by the Scarecrow, played brilliantly by Cillian Murphy. Also in Dunkirk, knocking him out of the park today. In the second one, it was all about controlled, organised chaos that was with the Joker, in that, of course, synonymous, an amazing performance by Heath Ledger. And the third was to really test the guts and the strength of Batman, and to get into that role, to just destroy this seemingly invincible character played, of course, by Christian Bale. He had to get jacked. He was a huge dude in Batman, and to act with just a mask over your face, he had to act with his eyes and with his movement and his big chest, and trying to get everyone motivated. He even had to redub all of his lines for the movie because you couldn't understand him throughout the whole thing. So to do it all twice, and to do the whole movie in a mask where you can't actually see what he's doing, and to still be one of the greatest movie villains of all time, do I need to say more? That isn't just because of my love of the comic book genre. It is my love as my love as a moviegoer. The man can captivate you without even being able to see half of his face. Now, number 2, I am of course a huge fan of the first 2 Mad Max movies. We don't count the... Oh no! Now we have to take over from an iconic character, an iconic role, an iconic actor, and you even get the blessing from the man over dinner, which has been clearly publicised throughout the making of this movie. You know you're doing something right, because to take over from Mel Gibson's original Max Rokitansky, the original Road Warrior, it must be a huge thing to try and do. But obviously working with the original director of the first ones, George Miller, they didn't famously get on during this because Tom Hardy was just so confused by what George's vision was with all of this. But when it finally came together, it blows you away. The action set pieces of the whole movie, of course, we all know, all practical effects, all amazing. But it's almost like the Dark Knight Rises thing. You can see half his face in that one. But in this, he barely has like a page of script to work with. Barely any dialogue. It's mostly Tom Hardy's famous grunts and moans throughout the whole movie. And yet, it's still amazing. Yes, he's in the action set pieces, but he said in interviews before, 80% of it isn't him in those, so you can sort of count those out. But to act with no real dialogue, I think all he really says is, "Max, my name is Max." That's about all he says. And it's so good to take over from a role that I clearly, as I've said, I loved Mel Gibson doing. He didn't say a lot either in those movies. The action speaks for itself in Mad Max. That is the way they work. But to take over that role and to do it, even for me and a lot of my friends, I'd now say it is better than Road Warrior. I never thought I'd say that, but it really is. And that is a testament to how Tom Hardy can take over from an iconic role like that and nail it. But unfortunately, that isn't my favourite Tom Hardy performance. My favourite Tom Hardy performance is The Krays in the 1960s were the biggest thing about London. They ruled the east of London, and they had a huge reputation to boot. So, who do you get to play Ronnie? Tom Hardy. Who do you get to play Reggie? Tom Hardy. Dual roles is the reason why this is number one on my list. I can't imagine how hard it was to get Ronnie and Reggie right. You had Reggie, this hard-nosed East End gangster. Then you had Ronnie, the man with a couple of screws loose who was famously in a mental institution back in the day. Now, to try and get these men who were basically a mystery until the day they died right on screen was never going to be, you know, bang on. It was never going to be that, because yeah, there's stories from friends and former members of the gang and the firm, but you're never really going to get down who Ronnie and Reggie really were. And I don't think this film really tried to do that. I think it took, they put some of the famous murders they had done back then and some of the famous deals they had done back then, but they don't really try too hard to get everything bang on, you know? They really just try and get the characterisation of Ronnie and Reggie down, and to get Reggie, the hard-nosed guy who was just trying to, you know, get the firm where they were and fall in love with Frances, his then first wife, who did tragically die, but they don't know much about it. And to get Ronnie, who was in this film, hilarious, and it was kind of heartbreaking to see a man who was a bit loose in the head. But the dual performances working together were absolutely mind-blowing. I love them. I watch this film now, I can still watch it over and over again, it still entertains the hell out of me. I love Legend. It is my favourite Tom Hardy movie of all time, hands down. I love it. Well, there you have it, guys. There is my top 5 Tom Hardy movies. What are your top 5? I'd love to know what you think. Are they different to mine? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like what I'm doing, then please like, share, let your friends know, and of course press that subscribe button. And if you want to know a bit more movie news and a bit more movie trivia and a few questions for you guys, then please follow me on Facebook. I am That Ginger Guy Reviews, and I will see you guys in the next video.